Look, these tariffs have everyone shook, and no one knows really how it's going to flush out until September and definitely December. So get ready. This episode is phenomenal. I know I say that about every episode, but I learned so much about the manufacturing process and what happens, and the fact that it takes 4 to 6 months for us to really start feeling the impact. And this stuff started in February, March. So now we're really about to feel it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This guy knows, he's so good. And let me know your thoughts.
So my business, Rookie Mage Games, I make card games and board games, design them myself, sometimes illustrate them myself, and then I get them published. Sometimes I go to Kickstarter, I do the Kickstarter campaign, but then I work with a manufacturing company to get them made, and then I sell them either online or through stores. So it's a very fun gig. I like to say it's like most other businesses, 90% of it is the boring sales forecasting and logistics.
Yes,
but that 10% is really cool.
So how did you get into this business?
So it was really just a game night at my cousin's. My husband and I were over there just playing party games, for the night like we did, once a month for years. And then my cousin just kind of leans over and nudges me and says, hey, I think you would actually be really good at making one of these. And it's like one of those cartoon light bulbs, just like, oh yes, I could. Because I've always kind of been like the creative person, I guess, in the family. Yeah. Like I was always the one that I would make my cousins do plays when we were little. I would write plays and we would do plays at family things. And I had worked in marketing. I've done illustrations and graphic design. I just never really found that kind of like thing that I could do myself and really create a new experience compared to kind of what was out there. And when she suggested that, I'm like, I can do every single part of this process. Like I know all of it. Just no one had ever put it in my brain that I had all that stuff. So on the ride home, I'm literally talking to my husband. I'm like, I'm going to call my first game Don't Get Stabbed. It's going to be about this. It's going to work like that. And he's just kind of doing the, okay, dear, whatever you say. But then the next day, I went on Amazon. I ordered blank poker cards and a bunch of magic markers and got to work. And a couple weeks later, went back to that same game night with my cousins and had them try this game that I made. It was just my scratching on cards, and they loved it. And they're like, all right, well, you found your thing. You have to do something with it. So went to Kickstarter, got that funded because I didn't have the money to produce it. I didn't even have the money. Who
does? Whoever really has the money to start a night, right?
Yeah. And I didn't even have the money for an illustrator. So after work, I would go to the public library and watch YouTube videos about how to do digital illustration because I knew I couldn't afford it. Like, I have to do this myself. This is my biggest weakness. So I did the whole art for it. So I got it to Kickstarter, got it funded, and then it came in around October 2019 is when I got my first thing in, and it was sold out the second week of December.
So how did you feel when you first saw the actual product in your hands? What did you feel like?
It was I feel like it was holding your baby for the first time. It's interesting because it's so everything about me. It's all my kind of funny personality type stuff. I put in jokes. There's little things about the characters. I gave them traits that are mine. One of them plays a saxophone in one of the cards as a joke, but they're playing a saxophone because I played the saxophone in high school.
Wow.
They're all their names, all the characters have names. You don't really know it; they don't matter. But
right.
About them, they all have names, and they're all named after something in my life. Of the cheerleader girl, her name is Penny, and that's after Penelope, which was a character from this random video game that I played in the 90s that almost no one has ever heard of. But to me, it's something. So like that's what this game is like. Almost every single little aspect of it, I've tried to like put, for one, part of me into it, but also like all of my hard work is now literally in a physical form that
that you can share with everyone.
Yeah. And like, you know, even like years and years after I'm long gone, some kid's going to go through their grandpa's closet and find an old board game called Don't Get Stabbed and maybe play it. And like, that is just something that really, you know, warms your heart to sound corny, but it's like a part of me is now just out in all these other people's homes, spending game night with them, you know, so that's kind of how I feel of like, it's just this, it's like I said, it's my baby.
How many games have you developed, like total?
I've developed 7 games. Don't Get Stabbed is the biggest one and the first one.
Okay.
I've done games of called Oh Nuts, which is about squirrels fighting nuts over the winter. I have a game called Nuns with Nunchucks, which is a battle game. There's a game called Portal Potties, which the premise of the game. So my nephews were getting mad because when I first started, I was making like adult level games, and they so they weren't allowed to play those. So they were mad of like, Uncle Jordan's making games and we can't play them. How is this fair? So I told them like, all right, I'll make a kids game. I'll let you even pick what it's about. And they, of course, being 7 and 8, picked poop. So I have a game that is about wizards that lose their jobs, so they go into the porta potty business and they use their magic to teleport poop back and forth to overflow their toilets and put them out of business.
That is funny. And you can buy it. So your business, so you do this full time. Like this has been your business for years.
About 3 years I've been full time. I went part time for about a year and a half to 2 years. But then you kind of finally was like, you know, it's time to do full time. The job just keeps getting bigger and bigger and requiring more of my time. So it was needed to be done. But it's also great because it provides a level of freedom that you never really have in like a 9-to-5 job, but also gives you a level of stress that you don't have in a job.
Speaking of stress, how did you like go about getting your first manufacturing cluster, like vendor, and knowing like how that whole process works? Because I think that's important as we move forward in the conversation, so people understand like what it all entails with the shipping and the purchasing time and where you went to place your orders and how that, because, you know, for our job here at All Americanish, our goal is to really bring the public into everyday life. So I'll tell you, we don't pick sides, but I think what's missing is the opportunity to just know people and know how this impacts people at a personal level. So when you don't see your poop game on the shelves this holiday, you know why and what's going on. So how does that process work for people?
So when I got into this, I'd had a marketing experience and creative experience, but one experience I had none of was really manufacturing and logistics. So that is all new stuff.
So the manufacturing is one point, and then logistics is something else.
Yep.
Got it. Education for me. Okay.
So the first thing I did was I found a Facebook group of other kind of designers for board games like me, and huge resource. It's one of the things that's I do want to focus on the gaming industry is a lot of industries think of their competing companies as, you know, rivals or adversaries.
True.
In our industry, most of us really think of each other as peers.
That's how you should. That's how people should think, though.
Yeah, like we go when we have conventions, which is normally when we see each other. We go out to eat after, like all of us.
Yeah.
And like we're never trying to take each other's businesses down. We normally share of like, hey, I had this idea. I'm not going to use it. Someone else want it.
Right.
And it's great because like a lot of times when I do some of these conventions, I'm doing them myself. But it's great because then if I need a quick restroom break, I know the person beside me is, for one, not only going to watch all my stuff, I've had them sell my stuff. People walked up and they're like, here, I sold 2 of your games. Here's your $40. And like, I've done that vice versa. So the industry is very connected and very willing to help each other. So,
but I think that was good too, that there's a Facebook group for what you're trying to do. Right. Yeah. So I never thought about that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, there's actually several. Like there's so many great resources. So I went to these Facebook groups and just posted like, hey, I need to get something manufactured. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet because I need to at that point figure out how much it costs to make it.
You're singing to the choir now.
And how much to charge for it. Right. So like you have to get samples and work with them and like get all the specs and everything. Several companies got recommended as like kind of like the big ones in the industry that will do small runs. Because being especially a first time game designer, 1,000 units was probably the lowest that you could go. That becomes problematic because there's very few that will do that, but also short runs also lead to a higher unit cost. So, you're paying more per unit, but you don't get as much to get your money back. You see,
that's true.
Scale type stuff. But because of that, there's a lot of companies that just will not take people that are under a 5,000 order. I've talked to like we don't talk to anybody unless it's a $50,000 unit or 50,000 unit order. And that's one of the biggest problems with the few manufacturing things that we do have here in the United States when it comes to board games and board game components. Most of them, they're not going to do these short runs that small businesses need. They're thinking they're there for like Hasbro, the big names everyone knows. That's what they're there for. They're not here for us small businesses that are only doing a couple units. So I found a company, worked with them, got it done. But then there's after it's manufactured, it's getting it from China. And when I say China, it's because basically almost all these companies are located there. I do not, from what I understand, the reason for that, and I'm not going to pretend to be an economist, but in the 1980s, that there was something set up with China specifically for toys to have 0% tariffs. And that's what led to that whole industry basically ending up in China. Because it was 0% when I started. It was 0% tariffs on all games and everything coming out of China.
So can you, for people who are listening, can you explain to them just in a layman's term, what is a tariff? Because people, I don't think most people understand, not in their ignorance, but it may not be their industry.
Yep. So tariffs at its very core value is a tax. It's a tax on products that are coming in from a foreign country into the United States that is paid for by the importer. So that's the company that ordered them, to be brought to the United States and is then going to sell them in the United States.
So do you pay for the tax when you order it, or do you pay for the tax after you receive it?
You pay for the tax literally when it is in the port, and they do not let it out of the port until you pay for it.
So when it arrives here, that's when you pay the tariff tax. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So tariffs, I want to kind of really always make this clear because I still to this day have these arguments with people of China and foreign countries do not pay these. I know the administration and some other people keep trying to say that, China pays for this. They don't. And I've literally started just bringing around my bill because people don't believe me. And I'm like, I have the bill right here. Like, what else do you want?
Oh my God, that's why I love you, Jordan. Okay. Because people don't know. And that's why we do the show, because people can understand, without being preached at. Like, this is what it really is. So when it comes in port, the business pays it.
Yeah.
It's not China. The business. And that's for the toy industry. Yes. Or everyone, period.
But it's basically for right now, it's every industry. We can get into that too of how just doing blanket tariffs are just a bad idea. But for right now, it's basically anything coming in this country from almost any country now has a tariff to it. That will vary depending on the country and the president's mood that week.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. So the tariff is paid for when it enters the country at port, and that's when it sits in the shipping containers, correct?
Yep. It's going to sit there until you pay it, and then
so
they
if
will
you
release
don't
it.
have the money to pay it, what happens?
I believe eventually it just gets destroyed.
Wow. Okay.
And that was a huge problem when this first started. Of people already had stuff on the boat that was then coming in. So when you put those tariffs in overnight, okay, so let's talk about my we're going to do a theoretical with mine. So my latest order came in, it was at 20% tariff. When I ordered it, because it's a long ordering process. It's 4 to 6 months from when you order something to when it actually hits the shelves.
Okay.
Well, until you actually get it, then hitting the shelves is a whole nother thing. But that's also part of the reason we haven't seen this effect as much, is because it takes that long to come down the chain, but it is coming.
So we'll see it. We're feeling it during Christmas time. Christmas may be a little light.
Back to school is probably going to be the first time people notice shelves not having the things they did last year, and the things they do being more expensive.
Gotcha.
Going through Christmas, because Christmas is such a huge season, is probably going to be a very different scenario than it was last year.
Okay.
So I kind of forgot where I was.
The scenario.
So mine came in at 20%. So I paid just a little over $3,000 as a tariff, which, to Donald Trump and these people, like, that's nothing. But to me, that's like months worth of groceries. That's like a lot of marketing budget. That's a huge impact on my plan for the year. Now, if it had come in 2 weeks later, got delayed for whatever reason, and it came in at that 145% tariff he was doing for a while, that would have cost me over $21,000.
Oh my God.
And I would have had no way to pay that. My stuff would have been destroyed. I would have been out of business.
Wow.
And that's why there was this sudden panic, because stuff's on the way, stuff's ready, all that money is locked up, or even if it's not on a boat, that inventory is sitting in a warehouse in China, not making people money. They're paying for the warehouse for it to stay there in hopes that someone.
So both sides feel it. It's not just China, but it's also the business owner. So what happens then so it's destroyed, but let's say it comes in, yours was 3,000. If it was 145% tariff, it would have been, oh my God, I can't even think, like
21,000.
21,000. You know the number, $21,000.
Oh yeah, I know.
Crazy. For people who don't know, for a small business owner, that is a salary in some cases. That's your marketing budget for 2 years. That's overhead, operating fees, because we feel it a lot more. We don't have the cushion as a small business owner. I have a professional services company. That's my day job. You don't feel the cushion as much like you do with the larger companies, because they can spread it out over several products, right?
Yep.
So with that being said, what happens then? What's the impact on the consumer?
Well, the first thing is that small businesses start going out of business. And that has already happened in our industry. There have been a couple that I know have gone under or at least done a layoff of some people that was expecting, that they're going to have to pay the higher tariff. So that's already starting to happen in our industry. But then the second thing is that when people get to Christmas and everything, their selection is going to be much, much lower than what it was. There's a lot of places that I know still have their stuff over in China because they were basically almost like market loss products. They weren't planning on making a lot of money off of them, but it was something they needed to fill the shelf. Well, now those are no longer profitable.
I'm sorry, what's a market loss profit for people who don't know?
It's a product that sometimes the store will have that they run a super deal on, that they're basically almost making no money on, but it gets people in the door.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's good information.
And that happens in everything. Cause like there's lots of times like people want to control the category. So like if you go into a store, you see Barbies and all these other ones, but Barbie just wants to have as much space as possible for their products. So they're going to make a lot of products, some of them knowing they're not going to make a lot off of them, but they want a full shelf because that's what Walmart and Target want. They want that whole thing kind of filled up with stuff. So the more products you have, the more easy you are to deal with, because that's only one vendor they have to work with. But man, they take up a whole shelf. Where when you're a 1 or 2, 3 product company, that's a lot harder to work with. So they're willing to have smaller margins, just knowing that they're going to get bigger ones on their bigger products to kind of monopolize that shelf space.
So if you have 10 Barbies, you know your breakout stars are, let's say, 2 different types of Barbies.
Yep.
Then those two Barbies are the ones that you make your money off of, but the other 8 are just sit there.
Potentially, yeah. It's a much lower margin. Like you think of like if you got accessories for it, or like a dollhouse or whatever. Some of those might be very, very razor thin margins, because they're just there to support the headline product. So if you have a product that is razor thin margin of profit, and now you're dealing with the 30% tariff, that now might not be economically feasible to bring in. You actually lose money on it.
So do you agree with the purpose of the tariffs? Like what's being said? Like, why are we having these tariffs? Because I think nobody knows. Like,
I do understand it either. There's what the administration has said, and then there is what the administration has done. Those very much contradict themselves. The main argument, I am part of a lawsuit against the Trump administration in the U.S. Court of International Trade. And the main premise of that lawsuit is that the president did not have the authority to do these tariffs, because tariffs, for one, in the Constitution, financial or foreign trade is regulated by Congress, not by the president. It's very clearly in the Constitution. 2, he was able to do this, or claims he was able to do it, because he did what's called an economic emergency declaration. So he declared an emergency over fentanyl, saying fentanyl was the reason that he needed to do all these tariffs. But then when you see him talk about the tariffs and what he's doing, it's never about fentanyl. It's always about retribution, or us having a deficit, or whatever. The things he says, the reason why he does the tariffs, don't match the original declaration that they're saying that gave him authority to do it. So that's the core thing is, for one, I don't believe he had any authority to do this type of thing. The second is that if you want to bring back American manufacturing, this is probably the stupidest way to do it.
How would you do it?
Huh?
If we had to bring back manufacturing, what do you think would be the best way to do it?
I think that we probably need to accept the fact that we might not be able to ever do that. We are the richest country in the world. It makes sense that we buy more than we make, and that things cost more to make here. That's just a reality of the world we're in. If we're going to do that, because I live in Central Ohio, and there's a big thing where they're building this Intel microchip plant. It's huge.
That was under the Biden administration, correct?
Yes. So they are still working on that. It has been delayed multiple times. It's like 2030 now when they think they might be able to open it.
What?
It was supposed to be open this year. It's now 2030. That's another thing of factories don't just pop up overnight. You can't just do tariffs overnight. Like there's no way to make that work. But like when it comes to a $20 product, there's almost no financial way to make that make sense, making it in the United States. And that is not small businesses' fault. That's 40 years of economic policy. So if they want to fix that, if you want to have U.S. manufacturing, we need to look at more high-end items, such as microprocessors that Intel does, cars, computers sometimes, like depending on what the product is and what it takes to get made. Yeah, we could probably move some stuff back here. But the $5 plastic trinket that you get at the dollar store, that is never going to make sense to make here. It's always going to cost more than what it makes. So we do need to try to accept that fact of manufacturing is not going to look like what it used to.
Right. It's not going to look like Ford Motor Company, like assembly plants back in the day.
Yeah.
But
and like, it's not going to be like the steel mills and everything. Like, unfortunately, the 40 years of bad economic policy has made that so that can't just come back overnight.
And then the labor hours. I mean, if you're paying people above minimum wage to work in McDonald's, how are you going to be able to make the numbers make sense to compare to what they pay in other countries like China, Taiwan, Mexico? It's just not feasible.
Yep.
But I think this comes down to sometimes to economics. A lot of people just really don't understand economics, and it's not because, and I don't want to say that to sound condescending, but when you're telling that and communicating that to your creative, to the public, I think one of the things that people need to do is make it make sense as to how and why you can't produce an iPhone in the United States. Like, it can only be done, like you said, in other countries. And I think that argument, but I'm glad you said that some things can be made in the US. So why don't we just focus on those things? But how long does it take, like you said, the processor plant in Ohio, how long does it take to actually get a proper manufacturing plant in place with tech? And then also you have to have the labor and the people, and now manufacturing is so not what it used to be. It's not hands, it's head, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Manufacturing is machine learning, doing a lot of the actual assembly. So we don't, in this education impacts that too. If we don't have engineers, we don't have people who are scientists, tech people, we're not raising them up in the education system. How can we expect to build a manufacturing plant that's going to service high-end cars, computers? Like, that's just not feasible. So first we have to start with the education to even be able to do those kinds of products. But then two, the education is, it needs a lot of work. So how long does it take on average to get a manufacturing plant up? Like maybe 20, 30 years, somewhere like that?
I'm not going to claim to be an expert on how long it takes to make them. I can only kind of go off what I see, which is, these things they're like, oh, these factories are going to restart that have closed. I'm like, those are dilapidated buildings that should probably be torn down. Like, all these are going to require new facilities. So that's at least construction time. That's getting the machines, which the machines are honestly probably going to be made in China and brought here because that's where manufacturing is. Right. So they have to do that. And so like when it comes to Intel, like we're almost up to 8 years now. Times that by every industry, because it's not like Trump was targeting certain industries. He just did it to everybody. So now every single industry is now looking to the possibility of moving manufacturing here. Well, like let's give them the good graces of it takes 4 years to get a plant up and running. So if I have to do that, if I have to wait 4 years before I can get inventory that is affordable, that I can make a profit off of, I'm gone. So that's one less customer for when that factory gets built, because a lot of people are going to go under in the meantime. The other thing is going to
impact the economy as well, because middle income really drives the economy of the United States. People don't really talk about that, right?
Yep. And then let's say you are the one that wants to build the factory here that makes those. Are you wanting to invest millions of dollars when our economic policy changes every day by tweet? Like, are you going to spend $24 million to build a board game factory, then wake up one morning and be like, okay, trade war is over, back to the way it was, I got what I wanted? No one's going to do that.
No one's going to do that.
No one is going to do that. And
just the construction, like it takes 3 to 4 years to do a stadium.
Yeah.
So you're looking at roughly 6 years to do construction, realistically, right?
Yeah.
And then, because you got to find somebody who actually has the capital to want to do construction. Then you're looking at the machine learning, that whole process, let's say 2 to 3 years. Now we're at roughly 10 years. And then you have the Intel piece, and not necessarily, you got to include process improvement. That's 20 years.
Yep.
And then with AI, you could be outdated by the time you get started.
Yeah, because those factories that they all want built, they're not going to be staffed by people. They're going to be staffed by robots.
Correct.
So like I get the premise, and like it's a very appealing idea, but you can't just say we're doing this and that be the reality of the situation. Like it's obviously going to be robots running these. They run half our manufacturing we have here anyways. And so thinking that we're just going to like go back to humans doing everything because Donald Trump said so, that's just not the way the economy works.
Not at all. What products do you think are going to become more expensive as a result of if they were to try?
Anything that well, you mean if tariffs go to effect and stay the way they are, or if they were made here?
If both. If the tariffs go to effect, let's just start there. If
the tariffs stay in effect, anything that comes from China is going to be probably the worst affected, because they are our primary kind of trading partner when it comes to stuff that's non-food, non-agriculture, non-like natural resource. It's going to get more expensive, even if the tariffs suddenly go away. It's messed up the shipping freight bandwidth so much that everything, it was really weird, because like I know friends who are what are called freight forwarders, and their job is to help you get your product from China into your hands. They handle that whole process.
That's a job?
Yep. Yeah, I tried to learn it and I gave up. I'm like, I'm going to pay someone to do this. I can't do it.
It's that difficult.
Yeah, and it's just stressful. It's constant logistics and organization. And I was very happy to find a great person to do that for me.
So you still have to coordinate that piece?
I will work with them, but they handle the day-to-day paperwork, and they'll send me like the bill.
Wow.
But so I'm talking to them, and like, so when Trump becomes president, the shipping costs start going up, because the bigger companies are like, wait, he might try to do something here. We want to get a little more inventory in before he does it. Oh. So then the tariffs hit and everything stops. So shipping goes down to like super cheap because no one is moving stuff. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going to happen. Oh my God. So the tariffs go up to 145% for like 2-3 weeks, whatever it was. And then suddenly it's a 90-day pause. Well, then suddenly the shipping rate skyrockets, because now everyone's trying to get their stuff in that has been sitting there the entire time the trade war started. So that started to go up. So then even though the tariff was down, it didn't help with prices, because you have to pay more for your shipping. So you have to build that into your product price that ends with the consumer. But the thing that's, I think, is scariest now, and this is still like kind of anecdotal information, is that shipping cost is going down significantly, which it really shouldn't for this type of year.
So that means that it's less companies ordering.
Yeah. So it means there's less product coming in, which means the product that does come in, because it's going to be more scarce, is going to end up more expensive.
Yeah, because when you have, just for people who don't know, the less product, the more expensive. It's like housing. The less homes, the more expensive the homes are. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what I'm seeing now that has me more concerned for Christmas. Is this is when companies are normally starting to get their Christmas stuff in and start getting that put together. If they're not doing that, what does that mean? And like I said, I'm not an economist. I can just see the things I know that look weird compared
to. But that's the thing that people need to hear. They need to hear from you, because, the economists can't tell it in layman's terms like you can. Like, this is why this is happening. Yeah. Do you think there are any countries that's being targeted more than others? I know we always hear about China, but is it for all, like 145%, let's say for China, Taiwan, every country, or is it just like 145% for country?
China was definitely being targeted. They were the only one that went up to 145. And he said that it was because Trump said that when he put these tariffs on these countries, that they were not allowed to put reciprocal tariffs on them. Most countries didn't, but China did. They didn't just kind of sit back and take it. And I don't blame them for kind of standing up for themselves. Like, I'm not going to advocate for that country, but I do understand where they're coming from of, hey, you punched us first, we're going to punch back. We're not just going to sit here and take this. So as punishment, he just kept rolling up that number until he got to 145%, just because they wouldn't roll over and do what he wanted. That's since been negotiated back and forth, and I believe it's at 30 at this point. The other one's Canada, which is like, Canada should be one of those places that we always work with. We
all love Canadians, right?
They're amazing. I love going up to Canada.
I love Canada too.
But like I think it was last week, Canada had been working on something called a digital services tax. Basically means like if Netflix comes in, they're sending the data from one country to another, that they were thinking about doing some sort of tax on that to, for one, offset the lost business that they got with the United States because of tariffs. Right. But because, they're their own country, they can think about the ways they want to do things. Well, Donald Trump immediately threatened to put more tariffs on them if they did this tax, because it would hurt U.S. giant corporations like Apple, Netflix, Google. Those are the ones that would have been affected by it. And those, of course, are his biggest, inauguration donors. Right. So true. He just threatens online of, hey, Canada, you're not allowed to do this type of tax or else I'm going to put more tariffs on you. And they had to back down. But it's those are the types of things that it's like, that's not a good way. I mean, it's Canada. like what? Why are we picking on Canada? They're like,
it's like New Zealand
friends.
It's like New Zealand. It's like no mean people come out of New Zealand, right? Yeah.
And like we have a great partnership. We work together well. We trade on so many things. We have an amazing relationship. Why are we suddenly being mean to them? Like, it's like some weird Mean Girl high school stuff. And I just don't understand what the only thing that I understand, and I'll be pretty blunt.
I love it.
I've tried to look at this as many angles as I can, because I'm trying to look for some shred of reason of why this is a good idea. And there is none. This is the stupidest economic policy I think I've ever seen in my life, or in history that I've known about. And it is only there to feed one man's ego. If it was there to help certain industries or certain manufacturing, putting a tariff on a banana does not make us build a car in the United States. Like, what are you doing? So that's the thing. It's like, it's so blanket and universal.
Yeah.
Like it's this weird tough guy routine, and he thinks it makes him look tough, but to anyone that has the basic idea of economics, it makes him look like an idiot, more than he already does himself on a daily basis on the internet. Right. And that's one of the things that frustrates about me the most, is that when I talk to a lot of business people, and I'm talking about some people that have very large businesses, they all agree with everything I say.
But they're not going to say it publicly.
But they won't say it. They won't say it because they're afraid they'll get targeted. They're afraid like it'll be bad press, and then they'll do some tweet about them. Where I'm in the position of like, it is just me in this company. I'm not responsible for other people's livelihoods, so I can take a little bit more of a risk of like, if something did happen, at least I'm the one that takes the blame, not, someone else doesn't have to take that effect. But it's just frustrating because like everyone agrees with everything I'm saying. I've never met a business person that didn't agree or think
whether
that
they
I
were
was doing the wrong thing.
Whether they were Republican or Democrat, they both agree. Because I think that's the mindset people, assume because other communities or other politicians aren't speaking up. But whether you're Republican or Democrat, they all agree that this is a bad idea.
Yep. I have never met a Republican that would tell me in private that they thought it was a good idea. In public, when there's other people around, they're going to talk about how great the president is and everything. Then as soon as you get them in a side room and you're having a drink, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a stupid policy." I'm like, "Why did you say that? Like, if everyone just said it, this would be over."
No, they are not. People are not. People are really cowards.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because we're supposed to be the land of or home of the brave, and so many of these people who we think of as leaders they're not leading when the opportunity has shown up. So I just find that very disappointing because this could be ended tomorrow if most of the people in the Congress who agree this is a horrible idea would just pass a law saying they're gone.
So what do you think is going to happen like in the next, let's say 12 months? What is Christmas going to look like? And then what could potentially happen next year?
I think that Christmas is probably going to be one of the lowest sales that we've seen in a while for a multitude of reasons. First is there's going to be less product. That product's going to be more expensive. And then people are going to have less discretionary income because Christmas is, for a toy and game company, like that's where I make my money for the year. Like 75% of my profit comes from that month.
Woo.
So I'm expecting to do much less sales this year because people are going to have less money because tariffs don't just affect board games and card games. They affect the things they need in their everyday life, like bananas. The aluminum cans that you get your baked beans in now has a tariff on it. So that's going to go up. Like all these little things add up and all the prices are going to increase. And that's going to take away from discretionary income because wages aren't going to go up. Wages haven't gone up in over 20 years. So there's not that money for people to spend on things that would be considered a luxury item like toys and games. So I think that's going to go down. For what happens for next year, I really don't know. I haven't thought about it a lot because most of my time is spent panicking about Christmas. So I haven't got that far. But it's going to be one of those things of if the tariffs stay where they are for my business, I'm going to have to raise the price. I have not done that for the current order that I got in at 20%. I decided to go ahead and try to make that work. Did some downsizing on my part. I used to have an office. Now I work in like a co-working space and stuff. Save a little bit more money just to trying to get through that and not have to pass that cost off. But now if that happens again and all my prices are going to go up too because inflation, because of tariffs, are going to hit me just in my expenses of the food I eat. All that stuff is going to go up for me too. Yeah. So how I'm going to make those numbers work, I don't know yet. It will be one of those things of you cross that bridge when you get there because who knows how many changes in tariffs we're going to get before I even get to that position to reorder, So it's put it out of your head, deal with it when the time comes.
And then not to mention like the job loss. How many people are going to be losing their jobs with everything that's happening now too?
Yeah, it is terrifying of just how on a razor's edge we are with things. And for so many people to be so unconcerned and not talking about it anymore, like, oh, it's at 30%, that's nothing. I'm like, what if your taxes went up 30%? What would that do to your budget?
Right.
So like, why do you think small businesses are just gonna like be fine with an extra 30% tax? Like that's, we're all trying to get by the best we can, but there's going to be dominoes that fall. It's just because it is a long logistic manufacturing process. We're not seeing a lot of it yet, but it's coming.
And so how is there a way to get it back? Like, even if it sounds like next year, it doesn't seem to be a way to easily bounce back. It seems like the dip is really strong.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we're going to see some kind of weird things happening with manufacturing of there are a lot of Chinese companies that have their factories in China that are now building factories in other places to get around the import from China thing.
Really?
And so, yeah, there's a lot of interest in Vietnam, which obviously that's where a lot of like clothes and stuff comes from. Lots of countries kind of have like specializations like that. But one surprising thing that I think we will see probably shortly, if this trend continues, is on the eastern coast of Africa. The Chinese have been doing a lot of investment in that area. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing factories show up in those types of places. So that's like one of the weird long-term effects of, even though these tariffs are supposed to hurt the Chinese, they're going to find a way around it, like just like everyone else does. That's half of our economics of working with people and lobbyists is finding ways around things. But for like long-term, like it's so hard to think long-term of like strategy and what to do with your business, or like make new games. Like I would like to spend my time making new games, but I don't know if that's even worth it, because I don't know if I'll ever get them, because the situation just changes daily to weekly. And how can a rational person try to make rational business decisions in an environment that's completely irrational?
Right.
So that's the reason I lose sleep at night. That's why I keep losing more of my hair over time. It was already pretty fur back, but it's back.
Oh, well, it's looking good. It's it's glossing.
Yeah, I'm embracing it. I just gave up. But like those are the things that's like, when I talk to other people in my industry, like I'm in a better position than a lot of them, which is part of the reason I'm doing this lawsuit fight, because I can kind of handle this better than others. I can take on the maybe lost costs and little ancillary costs that come up from it. But like, I get a text from a friend in the industry and they're like, I have $100 left. Like I'm going to move in with my parents and hope that maybe I can get a bank loan to cover getting the inventory in, because it's stuck and I can't afford that extra 30%. Yeah, because it's most of the people in this industry are small businesses. I think it's like 80% is like 20 employees or less, but a lot of them are 1 or 2 employees. It's just like me. They just made a game and they try to sell it and get by. And those are the ones that are affected the most. And so like, that's why I needed to join this lawsuit, because like we put in all this work, we put in the sweat, we used our creativity, and to have all that just threatened by an ego show by one man who has never worked an honest day's work in his life or run an honest business in his life, it's incredibly insulting. I built something, I'm not going to have it taken away just because you want to look tough on TV. So I'm going to continue fighting this, because there were some questions when they went down a little bit, like, are you going to quit this? I'm like, absolutely not. Because we can't live in that scenario where I wake up every day and I don't know what's going to happen to my business, depending on if the president got enough fiber the next day. Like that's not the way you need to run a society. That's crazy.
You are hilarious, Jordan. So you said something very interesting, and I've been hearing this buzz around on some of the platforms that I've been on, is the surging of Africa as a power player, especially for it to be a whole country. I don't think a lot of people understand like all the natural minerals and resources and what is going on in Africa, and how it is strongly and fast becoming a really strong partner, not only for manufacturing, but for some of the other opportunities as well. Tech is really big over there. So just what do you know about that as far as manufacturing? Because that might be an opportunity too for people to start looking at offshoring too.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. I just know that over the past maybe 10 to 5 years, that the Chinese have been investing heavily in it, at least in anticipation of that. They knew that their society is eventually going to get to a point where they're going to have a similar issue to ours, where it is going to be too expensive to manufacture there based on the standard of living. So they were looking, I think, proactively at places where they could go and have manufacturing there. Now, we can argue about morality of taking advantage of certain places that are poor, making them do the work, because honestly, the United States has been just as guilty in the types of things. When I talk about this, I don't want to sound like I'm ever advocating that type of thing. I'm simply just stating what I know to be happening. So it's one of those things of, it kind of makes me weird, because when I first started looking into manufacturing, one of the first things I was worried about is I'd like to make it in the United States, but that wasn't feasible because too small of orders. No business here really wanted to do anything with me, or the one or two that didn't have the capability to make most of the components that were needed.
Right.
So then when you go over to a foreign country, the first thing I think of is like, I can't hop on a plane, walk in and see if these people are being treated fairly, that it is a safe environment. I don't have the capacity, the money to do that. I've got to depend on other people's reputations. There's a company that in the industry has a very good reputation. There's, I spoke with many people that have worked with them before. Tariffs are just like industry experts, and they're like, oh yeah, this company is on the up and up. They're okay to do business with. But now you move that to another country, if they move, their manufacturing to Vietnam or to India, Eastern Africa, then that now becomes that's a whole new scenario. How do I make sure that my games are being made in a fair, safe workspace for those people? That is important to me, but I don't have I can't make my own factory to do that. Right. So I've got to rely on other things. And now if I'm forced to go somewhere else, how do I then not have the people that have that reputation and everything are gone? They're whole new people. It's a new thing. I have nothing to go off of other than a website with some stock photos. How do I then make sure I'm being responsible as a business owner? And I don't know what the answer to that yet is. It's one of those things of, if this happens next year when I have to reorder, I'm going to have to figure out some way to be sure of that.
Well, that's something too that is a great opportunity for people who are into business owners who want to start maybe working with China in Africa to set up manufacturing plants as well. And to be that, what do you call it? Freight forwarders or
freight forwarder. Yep.
That is a fantastic opportunity. I know I've been studying like emerging markets for a minute, and obviously looking at some of the BRIC countries. But one of the things that I was really impressed by is when they looked at the U.S. and the birth rate, the decline in birth rate in the U.S., and the fact that this is an older society, people just aren't having as many kids as they used to. They were saying that Africa's I forget how economists measure it based on if anyone is under 30, like the number of the population that's under 30 measures the potential of the country. And the U.S. just simply does not have as many kids and as many people like Gen Z compared to Africa and some of the other countries. And so that is what they look at to determine, like, will we have the labor and the workforce to be able to really do these manufacturing plants? And like we started and said earlier, there just isn't, it's just not here. Like we just don't have, and I don't want to say this like we don't have the talent, because we do have the talent.
Oh, yeah,
we just got to invest in the talent, right?
Yeah. And
that is a completely different model than I think what we're seeing now. And to me, on both sides, because I feel like the Democrat, as far as I'm concerned, I think teachers should be making $100,000 a year. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, easily.
I was a teenager in high school once. Those teachers deserve a pay raise because I was awful.
And it should be highly competitive to be a teacher. And you get the best, you teach the best students, you get people to be critical thinkers, but that just hasn't happened under any administration. And so for us, we have to have the talent pool. I think and then with immigration happening, and I know there are pros and cons on both sides of the immigration debate, but I think that in this country, we really have to look at who we have, because manufacturing requires people who have the skill set to be able to run the equipment, do programming, do tech. Some of that's going to be automated through AI, but you still have to know how to do the programming. And I just think that we have a lot of work to do. So when you look at other countries, like I didn't know that Africa was becoming a strong tech hub to rival the US. Like I was like, oh my God. But this is something that we got to really look at. So China, see where China goes, and that's what we should be looking at as well. So
yeah, like they I'm sure they have spent many hours of research thinking about this stuff, and like there's a reason they're there. They're not just randomly picking a spot. There's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of centralization to Middle East. You can get through it to Europe. Like there's a lot of things that make sense for it. So I want to kind of talk about something you mentioned, not to sound so kind of gloom and doom, but when we're talking about declining birth rates and how that affects manufacturing.
That's a serious issue.
So I think because like I used to think like, oh, who cares? People aren't having babies, whatever.
Right.
But being in business and just learning more about the way our economy is set up and the way our society is set up for lack of a better term, it's kind of close to a pyramid scheme. It has to keep growing.
Yes.
Because everything that we build and everything else is based on the idea that we're going to make more money in the future. Yes. And to make more money in the future, we need more humans. Now we have a declining birth rate. What happens in that scenario? Well, we have an example. That example was Detroit. So there used to be jobs there. They invested on the idea that it would keep growing, and it quit. And everyone knows what happened to Detroit. It's almost like a meme, sadly.
Yeah, I know.
Times that by everywhere.
Right. By all states, right?
Yeah. So like, and there's a lot of answers to that scenario of like, I know the administration is looking into ways to get people to have more babies. I think that's crazy. It's kind of weird, creepy a little bit, but like we can restructure the way that we think about our society and the way we think about our economy. It has always been, if you're not growing, you're dying. Well, that's a rule we made up, like, and we can unmake that rule. Like we humans have the most ingenuitive people or creatures on the planet, and especially the United States. Like we're so innovative. You're telling me that this is just a rule and we can't figure out an answer to it? Like, no, I call BS.
But that's also tied to the cultural and the social issues too, right? Because, it's like other communities are producing and having 2 and 3 children, right? So it's not that the birth rate isn't growing. It's just that the birth rate isn't growing among the people that you want the birth rate to grow. So
there's that too.
That's the real issue, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a non-issue if people are moving to other countries like India, like Mexico, and like Africa, right? So they're just going to go somewhere else, right? And then you're going to. So it's just kind of like the obsession with the boogeyman of the stuff that people are I call it the boogeyman. Like, oh my God, all the people, all the brown, the black, and the gay people are gonna come and get you and take your kids. It's like nobody's gonna take your children, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that obsession is what is going to be the undoing of the country, and that is what's most frustrating. And people say, well, what does that have to do with manufacturing? Hello, you need people to manufacture, to work in the plants, to be educated. And there has to be some kind of assistance to the lower income community. Like, as far as I'm concerned, every generation should push up to another economic level. Yep. So if you're low income when you start and when you come into this world, your goal is simply to push up to middle income. If you're middle income, your goal is to push up to upper middle income. And if you're upper middle income, your goal is to push up to high net worth, high income. If we focus on that, like you said, the pyramid approach, we all are winning.
Yeah.
We're all winning. But it's simple, but it's,
But I would add on to that. Like I like that way of thinking, but I also think when you reach that higher level, you have a responsibility to reach down and pull up others too.
And that's the thing I would say with that. But if you come from poverty to low income to middle income, I think that naturally happens because within your own family and community, that, wow, I came from poverty, so I know what it feels like. So I don't mind giving an extra 3% on my taxes because I came from that, right? So me, I came from very low, poverty, single mom. I've started my own business, successful, hired and trained over 100 employees, made $25 million. Real estate, I'm successful. But there was a time when we had nothing. Literally, we had to recycle my kids' shoes. I'm dating myself with my age. And I went to public school.
Yeah.
But because of that, I'm impassioned about access and equity, not just it being racial access and equity, but equity and access for low-income communities. And I know that how I got here is through education. I applied myself. I was smart. I was dedicated. My passion is to make sure that happens with everyone, because if you give everyone an equal footing, they will succeed. It's a no-brainer. But when you try to subject people and keep them under your thumb, it doesn't happen. But you only end up hurting yourself. That's the thing, because you need to have people to work for you, right?
Yeah, you need people to work for you. You need people to buy your products. You need people to have the babies that are going to be buying your products 20 years from now.
Right.
Like this is all connected, and this entire idea that one kind of class of people thinks they can just hoard kind of everything, and there's not going to be a long-term effect. Like they should know better. Like that they're supposed to be the smartest people in the world. How can they not see this? But every single person on the ground dealing with the issues they've created see it, and they don't.
Like the economists see it too. That's why I've been tracking a lot of economists, and one economist, I'll share his information and I'll add this to the podcast, but he said he's leaving in a year and a half. He's just trying to figure out where he's going to go.
Like leaving the country?
Leaving the country. Yeah. There are a lot of people leaving the country. And that's kind of like the underwritten rules. Some people are going to New Zealand. People are trying to figure out what they're going to flee to. I'm not at that point. I just feel like we need to work here to have a better country here. Yep. And I want to see what happens in the next 5 years. I want to see if America, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals have the backbone to really fight for what they believe in, because people like you and I will probably have the resources to leave and relocate somewhere else.
If I had to, I could pull it off.
Exactly.
It's going to be tough, but
you can make it work, right? Yeah. If you have a 5-year start. But what we need to decide now is how bad are we going to fight for the country we want? Because there are some times where I feel like I think you can be both. You can come together and have reasonable, it's interesting. So I did some research on education. And if we pay all the teachers $100,000, like all the teachers we have in the US now, all the teachers we have, like if we gave them $100,000 salary, do you know we could get out of this national debt we could get out of the national debt in 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that blew me away. So I was like, you have the answer, but if you educate,
they have all the answers.
They have all the answers.
It's just not the answers they want.
That's good. That's not the answer they want.
Yep.
So, oh my God, this is so awesome. Do you have anything else you want to share, Jordan, before we wrap up?
I do want to briefly talk about something that's called the Small Business Liberation Act.
Okay.
So this is a bill that has been recently introduced in the Senate, and they just now, I think it was earlier this week, introduced matching language in the House. And what this bill would do is basically exempt small businesses from the Trump tariff stuff. So it's it's got some momentum. I went to Washington D.C. to actually lobby, and that's how we heard about this. And it has some bipartisan support, like Republicans that normally kind of whatever Trump wants he gets are like, okay, well this one we can kind of be more okay with because it's helping small businesses and finding kind of a way out, an off ramp for these people that kind of got stuck in this mess. So if you want to learn about it, just search Small Business Liberation Act. Call your senators, call your representatives. I know everyone says that. Trust me, I've worked in politics. Fill up that voicemail box. They're going to know.
It works.
It works. Especially letters. Something physical that they have to hold in their hand, knowing that someone took the time to write them, has a much bigger impact than you think. It's much better than email. Emails just get sorted and deleted. But physical mail, they got to open it and read it to determine whether it's junk or not. So reach out to them. It sounds corny. I always used to kind of cringe, but when we were in this situation and then you've actually seen how much that can affect it, take 5 minutes, do those types of things. It does make a difference.
We need to put some template letters up and post those so people can actually put those in the episode guide and put down there some templates they can. So just send it to your individual senator and congressman.
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jordan. You have been amazing. And
thank you. This has been so much fun.
It's been fun. And also, I want to get you some sales. So send me your website so we can promote, push that out to people. Okay?
Yep. Awesome.
All right. Thank you. Be blessed. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. So what did you think? Did I tell you or what? If you are already experiencing some of the challenges from the tariffs, let me know. Drop it in the comments in the chat and let me know how you're feeling it and what you're seeing, because this stuff is just getting started. But I know that Christmas time, we're really going to be in the throes of it. Everything's going to be expensive, but this is not a scare tactic. This is a prep tactic. So make sure you get your shopping list together now. Start managing communication with your children, your family members, and tell them you're going to focus on things that really matter this year, right? So no more 20 gifts under the tree for those of you who can afford that. Maybe we're just looking at one or two things. So just start to set your expectations now with your family, definitely with the kids, because you know how that is. They want everything at once. So I hope this episode was very enlightening. It was for me. I had no idea of how this really impacts all of us. And so, it's nice to learn new stuff at any age, right? So let me know what you guys think and what you are really watching out for as far as these tariffs. Is it on new appliances that you want to buy? You building a home? You are worried about toys for your kids, back to school? What are you worried about? If you're worried at all. Some people, they're like, hey, what happens, what happens. But I like to know. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.